So Romans 8:28 was a verse that my mom had put in my Bible growing up. And it says, "For we know that in all things God works together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose." And my senior year of high school, I guess, was the first test of my life that completely changed everything that affected my future. I was diagnosed with a very, very rare form of ovarian cancer, the kind of cancer that you don't survive from. There was a chance that I would probably never have children. All things are working together for my good. And instead of all those things that I really was worried about, I had to just really start thinking, God, get me through one day at a time. One day at a time. I think I made a decision, and it didn't take long for me to just decide that I'm going to beat this thing. It's not going to beat me. And I'm going to move on with my future. You know, just that one step forward each day was another step in the direction that God had for me. It's funny, you know, you go through the chemo and all the tests and all the praying and a couple of years of just waiting and wondering. And it wasn't a complete, you know, here's a piece of paper, you're all better. It was confirmation through doctors. It was confirmation through blood tests. And it was confirmation through people that had been praying for me. And it was confirmation in my heart that I knew that I knew that I knew that I had been healed. The doctors were giving me no hope. And to see me go through that first year and come out ahead, they were ecstatic. And they said, well, the type of cancer that you had, you don't survive. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be alive. I've read your medical records. And you're not supposed to be here. And I was just to ask them, what are you talking about? So as I went ahead on and entered in college, and I was able to take classes and get my life started. And I was a vocal major in college and just was really starting to take off in my life because I could see a bright future again. I knew God had some plans for my life, so I was going for it, and I wanted to be used. And I met my husband. It was a busy time, of course, for me. You know, it's funny because each child that was born, and doctors would say, well, she'll never have children. And God confirmed it again to me that here's 3 children I'm giving you. I'm going to bless you again in your life. So my husband, Kevin, was a part owner in a restaurant business. It was a full-service business in the Maryland area. So he's very well known in the community. Good father and a good husband, good provider for us. We can never be prepared for the things that are going to happen to us. But I do know that we can be prepared in our spiritual walk with God, because if we're not, then we can't handle what's coming ahead of us. But one night, I woke up. Just something wasn't right. So I called my husband at the restaurant, and all I got the first time that I called was hung up on. I called back again. I was able to talk to someone, and they had told me at that moment that there had been a robbery. I was hearing things on the other end of the phone that just didn't make sense to me. I was 26 years old with 3 children. My baby was 6 months old. And the detectives came to my home and told me that my husband was shot and killed during the robbery. And it was deliberate, because it was 18 inches away from his head. That changed my whole life in an instant, because I became somebody else at that point. It doesn't, and you know, the cancer's one thing, but to lose someone in a violent manner is a whole nother ballgame. It throws you into a place in your life where you don't care if you get up in the morning. You don't care what happens with your children. There's no rule book on how do you live through a homicide or the death of your husband. I couldn't sit home. I wouldn't stay home. I would take the kids from one place to another and leave them with family and just do whatever I felt like doing. I was more angry than I ever thought I was. I carried this bitterness around inside me, and I couldn't seem to shake it. And this thing kept coming up inside of me. You've got to forgive the man who shot and killed your husband. You have to forgive him. And without that forgiveness, there was no way I was going to get better, or whether I wasn't going to move on, or I wasn't going to change. One day, I woke up. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and then I took it and I burned it. And I gave it to the Lord, and I said, Lord, I have to forgive this guy, because you love him as much as you love me, no matter what he did, no matter what he did to change my life. You still created him too, as well as me. I can't explain it, but at that time, something changed in me, and I believe the Lord created another miracle in my life. But the joy that I have now and the peace that I have in my life, it doesn't even compare to the kind of person that I was years prior to that. It has completely and utterly changed my life. Forgiveness. It's funny how God works. He's got a sense of humor. He never failed me. And he brought a wonderful man into my life. We spent the next couple of years becoming friends, and God leading us into a relationship, and later on we married. For me to forgive was for me to live again. Basically, to live again. That's the only way you forgive, is through the Lord. There's nothing like that you can do on your own strength. It's just not possible. And a new thing that I had sort of gotten involved in the past couple of years is prison ministry. Having the ability to be able to go into the prison and speak to these girls who are incarcerated and share my testimony about how God healed me of my anger towards the man who killed my husband. And a lot of these women are looking at me like, are you crazy? And yeah, I'm crazy. But I'm crazy for God, because he's the only one that could have fixed this. And I was able to get through to a lot of these women who are sitting there saying, wow, if she can forgive him, well, then I can forgive this person, or God can forgive me for what I've done and why I'm here. But it's a privilege to be able to share and give back what God has blessed me with, the joy that I have. My name is Cheryl, and I am changed.